Start recording. Okay, we are good, and I will start it now.
Hi there, my name is Colin Milligan. I spent roughly 92 hours on this project. My primary focus was the GUI design and integration between the C# infrastructure and the PowerShell script deployment.
Hi, my name is Zach Lalone. I spent roughly 70 hours on the project. My main objective was providing scripts to be executed by the suite, ensure optimal functionality within PowerShell, and perform testing for edge cases. Getting into our project introduction, the main goal of our project was to focus on the development of a PowerShell script deployment suite used to automate and simplify configuration and setup of a Windows Server environment. This deployment addresses common issues with manual system administration, including inconsistent configuration, inadequate manual setup processes, and potential security vulnerabilities or inconsistencies due to human error. Um, Even in my own personal life, I've had coworkers forget to install security, endpoint management on devices, and things like that. So, this is a really key project to ensure that you have good consistency across the board on your devices. Um, Getting into the project objective, the main objective of this project was to create a user-friendly graphical interface written in C# that allows for the execution and management of PowerShell scripts for basic setup and administrative tasks. Some of these tasks include user and group creation within Active Directory, enforcement of a baseline security standard, and an overall standardization of server setup procedures. This project is classified as a design and implementation based effort. An overview of our final deliverables were a comprehensive and streamlined GUI for the execution and management of PowerShell scripts within our environment, automation of the creation and modification of users and user groups within Active Directory via PS1 scripts, security standard automation and modification, standardization of baseline server configs that include domain, server name, time zone, and network configuration. Why XAML for design? XAML functions well with C# and provides significant benefits for dashboard design within this deployment. XAML provides a clear separation of concerns, ensuring adherence to professional architecture standards. XAML also utilizes a vector-based framework which allows for visual consistency and functionality regardless of differing monitor resolutions. Um, so getting into our design, providing a brief homepage, a brief homage to NMSU. The crimson and white theme can be seen throughout. We even have a custom button style named the NMSU button style. This was applied globally to ensure both a cohesive and appealing GUI. Not only does the button style provide uniformity across all panes, but also provides scaling with differing resolutions. With integration of control templates and triggers, buttons change color with either hovering or a click, providing clear feedback to the user. So why C# for deployment? Being that this project focuses on simplified execution of PowerShell scripts in a Windows Server environment, we found that C# was the perfect choice for this deployment. C# is a .NET language and it is natively optimized for Windows integration. C# also provides seamless processing control, and with try-catch implementation, the suite ensures robust error handling, providing clear feedback in the result of inadequate permissions or failures. PowerShell execution and logic. So we had UAC, which is elevated privileges, using runas within the process start info class. The user is immediately prompted for administrative rights, a necessity for server level configurations. Execution policy bypass. These scripts can run effectively regardless of the server's global security restrictions. Dynamic path mapping provides portability regardless of directory location and still is able to locate the necessary PS1 files. Safety and encapsulation. The use of try-catch blocks prevents crashing and provides clear error reporting. Testing our results and revisions. This application was tested on two separate local network clusters and performed as expected after a few syntax revisions. The suite started as expected, executed true scripts, and was able to harden security of workstations and create new users and user groups within the DC. Revisions were made in the way scripts were being called, as well as providing the user more visibility of the PowerShell script execution. So the project investment versus market valuation. Um, so labor, we had 162 man hours for research, C# and XAML deployment, and PowerShell integration. In the professional market value, this would be about 16,200 US dollars at $100 an hour for a consultant rate. Hardware internally was $0. We used utilizing existing systems. Infrastructure in the professional market would be about $3,000 to have a dedicated server and lab environment. Software was $0 for us. We use community editions, evaluation ISOs, and FOSS. Licensing would be $1,200 on the market value for things like Visual Studio Pro, enterprise support, and Windows keys. Um, Lastly, total out of pocket again was $0. In the professional market value, this would be about 20,400 US dollars. And with that, I will turn it over to Colin.
Alrighty, so getting into the operational impact and potential return on investment. This is compared to manual configuration versus utilization of the suite. It's a 93.75% efficiency increase. With the automation of the baseline configuration deployment, it's reduced from average of about 4 hours to only 15 minutes. For the cost savings, especially when working in larger environments, with a sysadmin rate of $55 an hour, this suite saves an average of $206.25 per deployment. So using this per workstation and per deployment, not only including DCs, but workstations as well. The payback period, the initial cost is recouped after 73 deployments. And then regardless of cost initiative, it significantly mitigates error caused by human manual integration. It often leads to a significant increase in overhead, and this tool mitigates that. So the current status, our final deliverable, our V9 of the server startup suite, it functions independently as a .exe. It automates Active Directory management and security hardening using a WPF interface. It functions solely as a localized tool. Going further, if there were any desired modifications to be made, it could be moved into a SaaS or a cloud hybrid solution that could be managed from one localized console. So here's the detailed list of each ICT course and the skills that were utilized within this project. PowerShell scripting, which relates directly to ICT 364. GUI development functions tangentially to the development in Android Studio. within the course ET483. Virtualization with VirtualBox, although seen in a few different courses, predominantly was ICT 450. Windows Server 2022 Administration, ICT 364. Active Directory Configuration, also ICT 364. Relating to the professional skills, project planning and management, that relates closest to ET552. Technical documentation creation, ET562. Troubleshooting and problem solving errors related to most, if not all, of the courses. And then system design and deployment related closest to ET483. So then the preliminary testing plan and validation. So we identified 4 different test phases: unit testing, integration, UX stability, and portability. So the objective within the unit testing was to just verify that the standalone PowerShell or PS1 scripts function adequately. The success metric was that 0 syntax errors and providing that expected outcome or result of the execution of that script. Integration was testing the C# to PowerShell data interaction, and then ensuring that UI is correctly passing values entered there to the scripts. UX stability is just ensuring responsiveness of the UI. And then specifically with some of the longer PowerShell script executions, just that the dashboard remains active and doesn't incur any runtime errors. And then portability, ensuring that that just running the exe on the testing cluster, kind of a drag and drop solution, and then identifying that it functions with 0 local dependencies. So for the project constraints, just identifying that this is more of a proof of concept and not necessarily ready for full large-scale enterprise deployment. The testing that's been run is not necessarily functional enough to identify large-scale clusters, and it's more of a proof of concept. Second thing, very similar, just it's not identified for the full-scale enterprise deployment at this stage. Resource availability is limited simply because we're working through VM solutions to test rather than true hardware systems. More balancing with other commitments, both educational and workforce related, and trying to balance that with our other responsibilities. And then standard just development is restricted to using the C# and PowerShell languages. So just ensuring that although we may be using these as we feel necessary, there are certain limitations within the languages we are using. So for safety standards, we are implementing zero trust security principles. All user and group management declaration is performed with adherence to the principle of least privilege, ensuring that users that are created only have access to necessary systems and levels of access, as well as starting at the lowest level of security and then allowing for a sysadmin to move them to the desired locations. Isolation and segmented deployment. All development and testing occur within a virtual cluster. This prevents unintended changes or loss of functionality to deployed and functional systems. So if we were to be developing this and testing on a live server environment, it would minimize the risk of loss of work for downtime or anything like that. Then we also have process disabling standard for environment workstations, only allowing necessary services and processes to be accessible within the environment workstation. That significantly increases the security standard while also minimizing the risk of malicious usage by either an intruder or a bad actor. So here we have the overview of our project timeline, our current status relative to our current updated Gantt chart. We have initiation, the base PowerShell script, completed by me, assigned to me, admin GUI design assigned to me, script testing assigned to Zach, integration into the repository assigned to Zach, and then just a tandem documentation. And then within the planning and design, completion of the GUI, the suite testing, the repository updates, and then the same tandem documentation. So for the testing environment, what we used was a Windows Server 2022 DC or domain controller that functions as the central hub. Providing this allowed for identification of DNS servers or DNS services and other disabling like inbound ping required for script validation. We are using dual workstation nodes, which are two Windows 11 workstations. That allows us for simultaneous testing of workstation setup and the net baseline scripts, further referencing the inbound and outbound ping. And then it works as a bridge networking solution, providing real world networking conditions. It functions as if it were a physical device. Hi there, my name is Colin Milligan, and this is our project, the Server Startup Suite. It was a suite created to automate the deployment of base setups for domain controller and workstations utilizing PowerShell scripts. So just looking in here in the folder, when transferred over, all of the PowerShell scripts have not been integrated into the exe. They are executed separately just within the same folder. This was intentional to allow for modularity and modification depending on the environment that the suite is deployed in. So when launching the server startup suite, and this is just located on our VM domain controller, we have our admin login page. We just set a static username and password just as a proof of concept, but over time you could create a list of known users and allow for that. So entering wrong password just prompts invalid username or password. And then when prompting the true password, it allows you into the administrator dashboard. We have 4 buttons here. The user management is for the creation of groups and users within the domain. The base workstation setup is disabling known vulnerabilities and services, as well as disabling potentially troublesome things like inbound ping. The system summary page, which just provides important information about the system to allow for like better troubleshooting. And then the advanced tab, which allows for the execution of custom PowerShell scripts that are not included within the suite already. So coming here, if we just click on the system summary page, it'll provide the server summary, all the information necessary, including the IP, and then prompt the user that it started successfully. We have the advanced tab that allows for advanced deployment. So let's just execute that same script again. And as you can see, it has executed correctly. The base workstation setup will come back to on a separate workstation within this domain. And then user management. So creation of users and user groups. So let's do, this is a test 3. This does require a complex password. So this is a test 3, was handled successfully. And let's create a new user group. Let's name it practical demo. And group creation request for practical demo was handled successfully. This can be visible in Active Directory users and computers. Let's just refresh. And then we have this is a test 3 right here for the user and practical demo for the group. Now going to the Windows 11 workstation. We have the server startup suite on here as well. And this, I had mentioned before the inbound ping, just to prove that that is accessible here. The IP of this is 10.0.0.12. So coming to my local system command prompt, pinging that device, we get a reply. And then after execution of the base workstation setup, baseline complete, ping disabled, and it started successfully. When we come back to the command prompt on the local system and try to ping 10.0.0.12, we no longer are able to inbound ping this device. So that's a practical demonstration of all of the functionality of our server startup suite. Thank you very much. So the key challenges and solutions for this project was responsiveness of the GUI, as well as implementation of pragmatic listeners. Initially, a significant challenge occurred with the integration of the WPF interface with the execution logic. The standard XML like based event triggers were having difficulty when handling the complex script parameters required for our PS1 files. To resolve this, the design pivoted to the use of pragmatic listeners. This shift provided the control necessary to clean the user input and ensure functionality and responsiveness of the GUI for longer running tasks, so increasing runtime. Asynchronous process communication, calling PowerShell scripts directly from the C# backend was causing the application to hang while waiting for completion or user input. Overcoming this required the implementation of asynchronous execution logic, allowing for real-time feedback and data passing to the shell without hanging in the GUI. And then also the balance of security and modularity. A major decision had to be made either to compile the PowerShell scripts within the exe, which would improve security, or leave them just located within the same folder and be accessible from there, which significantly improved modularity. Although integrating the scripts into the .exe directly would significantly improve security standard adherence, it limited the tool pretty significantly to only our testing specific use case. Thus, a decision was made to leave the scripts separate to allow for modification. So just as a conclusion, the server startup suite successfully demonstrates that a C# graphical interface with modular PowerShell automation significantly reduces the overhead and deployment of Windows Server technologies. By identifying the time frame for manual configuration as well as human error within it, the deployment of this suite provides a 75% reduction in deployment time and testing. With the inclusion of zero trust principles and a modular but security first design, this application provides a robust framework for ADDS management. It serves as a functional foundation of modern administrative workflows, highlighting the importance of automation for consistent, efficient, and secure IT deployment. Here are the references used, and feel free to pause if you would like to go further into any of these. Thank you.